They say love is blind, and maybe it was. When I first met Thomas, I was just a 21-year-old girl with dreams bigger than my small town could hold. He wasn't flashy or rich, but he had that smile. The kind that made you feel like you were the only one in the world that mattered. He was charming, attentive, and always knew how to make me laugh, even when I didn't want to. Before I continue my story, make sure you subscribe on this channel and let me know where you are watching from the comments section. I remember the night he proposed. We were standing under a willow tree by the lake where we used to walk every Friday night. Fireflies danced in the air, and the moonlight shimmered on the water like tiny diamonds. He got down on one knee, held out a simple silver ring, and said, "I may not have much to offer you, but I promise to love you until my last breath." And I believed him. We got married the following spring in my mother's backyard. My sister, Lena, was my maid of honor. I remember how she beamed beside me, her arms looped through mine as we posed for pictures. She was always the prettier one, thinner, taller, with eyes that sparkled even when she wasn't smiling. But I never envied her. We were close. She was my best friend. Thomas and I built a quiet life. We bought a small house on Oak Ridge Street with peeling paint and wild roses in the backyard. He worked as a mechanic. I took care of the home, and later, our 2 sons. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And I thought we were happy. Years passed like a blur, birthday candles, scraped knees, mortgage payments. Lena would visit often. She'd sit on our couch, drinking wine, laughing with Thomas about silly things while I cleared the table or tucked the kids. They say love is blind, and maybe it was. When I first met Thomas, I was just a 21-year-old girl with dreams bigger than my small town could hold. He wasn't flashy or rich, but he had that smile. The kind that made you feel like you were the only one in the world that mattered. He was charming, attentive, and always knew how to make me laugh, even when I didn't want to. I remember the night he proposed. We were standing under a willow tree by the lake where we used to walk every Friday night. Fireflies danced in the air, and the moonlight shimmered on the water like tiny diamonds. He got down on one knee, held out a simple silver ring, and said, "I may not have much to offer you, but I promise to love you until my last breath." And I believed him. We got married the following spring in my mother's backyard. My sister, Lena, was my maid of honor. I remember how she beamed beside me, her arms looped through mine as we posed for pictures. She was always the prettier one, thinner, taller, with eyes that sparkled even when she wasn't smiling. But I never envied her. We were close. She was my best friend. Thomas and I built a quiet life. We bought a small house on Oak Ridge Street with peeling paint and wild roses in the backyard. He worked as a mechanic. I took care of the home, and later, our 2 sons. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And I thought we were happy. Years passed like a blur, birthday candles, scraped knees, mortgage payments. Lena would visit often. She'd sit on our couch, drinking wine, laughing with Thomas about silly things while I cleared the table or tucked the kids in. I thought it was sweet how well they got along. I had no idea I was feeding a snake in my own home. I thought it was sweet how well they got along. I had no idea I was feeding a snake in my own home. It started subtly, so subtle that I blamed myself for being paranoid. Lena began visiting more often. At first, I was thrilled. I missed having her around. We'd giggle like we used to as girls, reminiscing about summers spent barefoot and wild. But slowly, things shifted. Her visits no longer felt like ours, they felt like theirs. I'd walk into the living room and find her laughing a little too hard at Thomas's jokes, leaning just a bit too close. Sometimes when I came in, they'd both go quiet, as if they'd been speaking in a language only they understood. Still, I shook the feeling off. Don't be foolish, I told myself. She's your sister. He's your husband. You're imagining things. One night, Lena stayed over after a late dinner. The kids were asleep, and I had gone to bed early with a migraine. When I woke in the middle of the night for water, I noticed the glow from the living room still on. I padded quietly toward it, only to stop at the sound of whispers and laughter. I peeked in. Thomas and Lena were sitting close, too close, on the couch. Their knees brushed. Her hand was on his shoulder. His gaze lingered on her in a way I hadn't seen in years. I stood there frozen, the water glass trembling in my hand. But when they noticed me, everything changed. They sprang apart like teenagers caught breaking curfew. "Oh, hey," Lena said quickly, standing up too fast. "We were just talking." "Couldn't sleep," Thomas added, his voice calm but not quite meeting my eyes. "Didn't mean to wake you." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. My throat burned, and a sick feeling curled in my stomach. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I told myself I was overreacting. That they were just close. That I was tired, sick, and maybe even jealous of their energy, their fun, their ease with each other. I was a fool. Because from that night on, I started to see things differently. The way Thomas would glance at his phone and smile to himself. How Lena started showing up unannounced, dressed prettier, lips shinier, perfume stronger. And worst of all, how cold he began to grow toward me. It was like loving a man made of glass. He was there, but unreachable. I wanted to scream. But I didn't have proof. Only a gnawing suspicion that my sister was slicing through my marriage with the smile I used to trust. The silence between Thomas and me grew louder with every passing day. He stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. Stopped asking how my day was. Even the way he said my name changed, from warmth to indifference, like it was a chore he could no longer bear. And Lena? She became a ghost with perfect timing. Always showing up when I was away, always gone before I came back. My neighbors even began to whisper. "Your sister was here again yesterday," Mrs. Donnelly from next door told me one afternoon, casually. She and Thomas were laughing like teenagers. "She's quite the visitor these days, huh?" I smiled tightly and nodded, though my stomach churned. One evening, I decided I needed to know. I waited until Thomas was in the shower and went to his phone on the nightstand. My hand shook. My heart thudded like a drum. I had never gone through his things before. But this was different. This was survival. At first, it was clean, too clean. The messages were dull and brief, like he had something to hide. Then I found the deleted texts. One swipe, one restore. "Lena, I missed last night. I still feel you on my skin. Thomas, can't stop thinking about you. When can we be alone again? Lena, she'll be at her mom's Sunday. Come over." The world tilted. I dropped the phone. My breath caught in my throat like a fish in a net. I thought I might throw up. The betrayal hit me like a wave, icy, overwhelming. My husband. My sister. The two people I loved most, together. Behind my back. In my home. I sat on the bed, numb, staring at the wall. Hours passed and I didn't move. When Thomas came out of the bathroom, he barely noticed me. "Everything okay?" he asked, drying his hair. I looked at him. Really looked. And in that moment, I didn't recognize the man I had married. "Fine," I said. Because I wasn't ready yet. Not to cry. Not to fight. And definitely not to forgive. No, I was going to find out everything. And then I was going to burn them both with the truth. I couldn't sleep that night. The weight of those messages pressed on my chest like a stone. My heart wasn't just broken, it was humiliated. The next morning, I pretended everything was normal. I packed the kids' lunches, made Thomas's coffee, and smiled like the fool they thought I was. Then I called in sick to work, dropped the boys at school, and drove to Lena's apartment. She opened the door in her robe, mascara smudged from the night before, clearly hungover. Her smile vanished when she saw me. "Can we talk?" I asked, keeping my voice even. She hesitated, then stepped aside. I sat on her couch, surrounded by the sickly sweet scent of her perfume and shame. I know, I said simply. I read the messages. Her face drained of color. Her mouth opened, then closed. She didn't deny it. How long? I asked. 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. Half a year of deceit. I trusted you. I trusted him. I gave you both my home. My heart. Tears burned my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Why? I asked. She shrugged, ashamed. I didn't plan it. It just happened. We got close. I stood. I hope it was worth it, I said. Because you've lost me forever. Then I walked out, knowing I would never speak to her again. When Thomas came home that night, I was waiting. The boys were asleep. Dinner was cold on the stove. I sat at the table, a printed copy of the text messages beside me. He saw them. Read the first few lines. And froze. Say something, I said. He looked at me, guilt, panic, and something else in his eyes. Cowardice. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said, the most pathetic excuse I had ever heard. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you slept with my sister in my house? Lied to me? Disrespected everything we built? He reached for me, and I pulled away like his touch was fire. I'm not going to scream, Thomas. I'm not going to beg. I'm just letting you know. This marriage is over. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. You can sleep in the guest room until I figure out what's next. He hesitated. Don't you want to talk to the boys about this together? My glare could have turned stone to dust. I'll decide when and how I tell them. You've done enough. I took time. I needed to process. I needed a plan. Divorce was inevitable, but I didn't want to leave in silence. I wanted justice. Not just legal, emotional. I started collecting evidence. Bank statements, text messages, emails. I kept everything. I contacted a lawyer and found that Thomas had emptied part of our savings, money meant for our children's future. Worse, he had bought Lena gifts. Jewelry. A weekend getaway. That was when my heartbreak turned to fire. I confronted him again, this time with the proof. I'm filing for divorce, I said calmly. And I'm taking everything. You won't get the house. You won't get custody. You'll be lucky to walk away with your clothes. He turned pale. You can't do that. I cut him off. Watch me. He had taken everything sacred to me. It was my turn. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the memories. Waking up alone in bed. Looking at the family photos and knowing they were lies. Watching my boys ask why Daddy didn't eat dinner with us anymore. Why Aunt Lena stopped coming around. I couldn't tell them. Not yet. But I held them tighter. Read them extra bedtime stories. Let them sleep next to me on hard nights. Every tear I cried, I turned into resolve. This wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning. My revenge wasn't going to be dramatic. It was going to be slow and permanent. I knew Lena was jobless, dependent on Thomas's money. I reported the gifts he gave her using our joint account. My lawyer froze his access to the funds. He begged. Pleaded. I ignored him. Then I showed Lena's boss the screenshots. She worked at a family-run daycare. He was disgusted. She was fired within days. I also exposed their affair to our church, where Lena sang in the choir and Thomas served as a deacon. When the whispers started, they could no longer show their faces without shame. I didn't raise my voice once. I just opened the door and let the truth walk in. In court, Thomas looked like a shell of the man I married. My lawyer was ruthless. The judge awarded me full custody, the house, and spousal support. He got visitation, and barely enough to rent a one-bedroom apartment. His pride was shredded. Lena tried to reach out. Sent letters. Left voicemails. I deleted them all. I started working again, at a library where I found peace between pages. I even went back to school. Slowly, painfully, I rebuilt. I kept my dignity. My soul. He lost everything. That was my revenge. It's been 15 years. The boys are grown now, strong, kind, and nothing like their father. They know the truth. I told them when they were old enough to understand. Thomas lives in another town, alone. I hear he drinks more than he should. Lena moved states away, still single, still bitter. As for me? I've lived a good life. I became a grandmother last year. And every time I rock my grandchild to sleep, I'm reminded of what I saved myself, and my family, from. Pain tried to break me. But I rose. Because when you betray a woman who gave you her heart, you better pray she doesn't find her strength. I did. And he'll regret it for the rest of his life. You are not what they did to you. You are the fire that rose from betrayal. The strength that stood up from heartbreak. The dignity that refused to be broken. No matter how deep the wounds, you chose healing over hate, justice over revenge, and growth over grief. You are living proof that even in your darkest hour, no one, not a cheating husband, not a backstabbing sister, can destroy a woman who remembers her worth. You didn't just survive, you transformed. Let your story remind others. Pain is temporary. But your power? That lasts forever. Please don't forget to subscribe on this channel to enjoy more of my story.